and welcome to the Creative Brief Podcast by Here's to You. I'm your host, Hud Oberly, aka Huddleberry Finn, coming to you live from the beautiful borough of Brooklyn, New York. Happy to be here. Wow, the brief. I think this is episode 6. We're trucking along. We're not going to talk about last week, me not being here, but happy to be here this week. Really excited for the topic of kind of the creative journey topic. The question of the week, kind of talking about the last question of the week we did of what are your 2 favorite crafts, being a multi-hyphenate. Loved the comments we got on the Instagram. Keep those coming whenever you see a post. That's, I guess, the question of the week, but also if you see the post of this podcast, a little clip, a little montage of the highlights, be sure to comment, answer the question, or just, give me a shout out. Let me know you're listening. Let me know you approve of the podcast, if you will. So, again, a little quick housekeeping. This is Here's to You. I'm rocking the OGT is how I always refer to it, like when I write it or type it, but it's the original T. It has this Here's to You spelled out on the front, the black with white text for the podcast listeners. But we are on YouTube. But the back has Brooklyn, New York, Lenape Hoking, and Creative Utility with the icon logo H2Y in the middle. This was like one of the first t-shirts I designed for Here's to You. So this really is the OGT. There are a few left. I'm not exactly sure the sizes available off the top of my head, but take a look. Take a gander. If you like it, get you an OGT from Here's to You. Here's to You is at Relative Arts in the East Village in Manhattan. I just restocked a lot of stuff there. I'm trying to think when that was. I don't think I've done a podcast since then. So go check out Relative Arts if you're in Manhattan or you're visiting the Big Apple this February, March, or whenever you're listening to this. Go check out Relative Arts. A lot of great stuff happening over there. A lot of great other brands, skincare, jewelry, all kinds of stuff. So go check out Relative Arts. Obviously, you can get everything that is in stock at here's to you h2y.com. That's here's to you h2y.com. Update section. There's none, or I guess maybe one. I'll have one, but for the most part, there's a lot of wheels turning in the background. So, and I can't confirm if those updates are going to come at the next episode, but the best thing you can do is to subscribe to the Podder, be a podcast subscriber on Apple, Spotify. We love a good YouTube subscribe. We love the YouTube subscribes. I think the profile is Here's to You H2Y. But if you look hard enough, and it's not going to be that hard to look for, but you'll find Here's to You H2Y on YouTube. So yeah, not any updates at the moment, but there are things moving. Last week I went to, this is my one update kind of. Last week I went to the Ralph Lauren offices here in New York City. If you're watching this, a lot of people know that I was a part of the Ralph Lauren campaign for the Naomi glasses and Polo Ralph Lauren clothing campaign. I don't even know the words I'm saying right now, but I was a part of that. I modeled for it out in Arizona, met a lot of great people from the team all the way out in Arizona. Come to find out, they're in New York as well. So we stayed in touch, got to be invited to their offices just to like take some meetings very casually. But one of the main ones I really wanted to do was talk about wholesale with the people that work in their wholesale department. So if you are a museum, a store, a boutique, or retail, be happy to talk to you about wholesaling. Here's to you. I know I probably haven't released enough this year at all. I haven't released anything new at all this year, but things are coming, really focusing on the summer collection and the fall collection. So I guess there's some updates a little bit. Let's do the question of the week. So let's do this week's first, and then we'll talk about the last one. So this week's question of the week that I want you to answer in the comments of the YouTube video, of the Instagram, keep an eye out for it, and even on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. Still playing around with TikTok doing the question of the week on there, but I think it would pop off now that I'm thinking about it. We'll add it this week. The question of the week is, what do you wish people asked you more about your art? Now, this question I love, 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 love. And I've narrowed it down from a question I heard that another podcast used, Slow Stories on Instagram. I believe it's Slow Stories Official, but every interview they had, they would ask the interviewee, what's one question you wish people asked you more, because it wasn't art specific. It could be anybody that kind of was making moves, movers and shakers, but I've turned it into, what question do you wish people asked you more about your art? And now that, you can say like the meaning behind it, but let's get a little deeper. Let's like, maybe you want people to know like how you got started. That's fair. Who like influenced you the most for art? Those are good questions. My answer is, I wish people asked me more, what do you hope your art accomplishes? Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. Um, and the quick answer for that, and I love that question because I feel like there's so many layers to Here's to You and the art I create through that not many people get to hear unless I am asked a question like that. And I honestly just want my art, Here's to You in general, to accomplish people adding more creativity to their day. And the ultimate accomplishment I want is some like a stranger I don't know and doesn't know like a whole lot about me, but just knows I like operate Here's to You. I want them to just see me in the wild. Maybe I'm on vacation or on a business trip in another city, and they just see me and they like come up and shake my hand and just say that they want to thank me and that I got them to add creativity to their day and it made them a happier person. Like, that is the ultimate accomplishment. I'm not gonna hang up the shoes after that happens. Got to get everyone to come shake my hand, but that is like what I hope my art and Here's to You accomplishes in general. So again, what question do you wish people ask you more about your art? Now, last question of the week was a banger. I loved it. I loved all the responses too. So last question of the week was about being a multi hyphenate. What are your two favorite creative practices? That's is how I think I worded it. So many good comments on the Instagram graphic of that question. There were a lot of painters, and there was painting and sculpture, painting and video editing, painting and block painting. Can't even read my own writing. I think that's what it is. Painting and block painting. There was a portrait painting and business owner. I was like, hashtag relatable. Being a business owner, you have to be so creative, and it may seem less of like a traditional creative practice. It's not necessarily like painting or singing or sculpture, but business owner, you got to be so creative, and technically, I think every artist nowadays is a business owner with the amount of content you have to put out, the amount of relationship and networking you have to do. You have to be creative in those spaces, online and in physical, the real world. So a lot of great responses. I also had brand developer and interior designer. Shout out. Those are like definitely creative practices. Brand developer probably falls into the same category as like business owner, because that's how you're like a business owner is developing their brand. So same little category, but I completely agree. So a lot of great questions there. Again, I'll post about it. All of those top four: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. But what question do you wish people asked you more about your art? Thank you for those responses in advance, because I know you're going to comment. Okay, so our creative journey conversation segment. I debated on what I wanted to do about this one for this week, because I had, and for the most part, I'm only going to be able to talk about like my experience, but I assume that it's kind of a common, relatable experience in the creative journey. And I'm not going to make it too niche, but it's something that I think a lot of people can relate to, and maybe even outside of the creative world and artist journey. But um, it's a conversation about how it's such an accomplishment to operate at certain standards for a consistent amount of time. And that's a lot of words to say, like being consistent, maybe, but it's it's such an accomplishment to be consistent, because I feel like in my own experience, like maybe past 3 weeks until last week, I didn't really time out how far back it was, but I feel like I was operating on a high level. Like I was doing this podcast. I was like did the podcast, and then I added the video element, and then I like upgraded the video element with the like on screen action, if you will. Um, and so I was on a roll. I was making like I think really crispy content for my personal page. I was being consistent with the here's to you page, and then boom, 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 just kind of fluttered out. That's a yeah, butterflies flutter, I guess, but I kind of like sputtered out. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. I just like I hit a wall, kind of self inflicted a little bit. Maybe I partied a little too hard last week one time, and it kind of derailed me. It's nothing crazy, but I the consistency I was on takes such a high level of like discipline, I guess. And maybe and I'm do that to myself. Like I don't have to put out this podcast, work on creating clothing, work on these events I'm working on for the spring. Like it is a lot, and it I do it to myself to put all that on my plate, and even stuff outside of here's to you, like my personal stuff, getting ready to do some speeches and moderate some panels and doing some like freelance social media stuff on the side. Like it is a ton of stuff, and the reality is that there's not a whole lot of wiggle room to take off a night or to I don't like be social, I guess, but not in a like I'm not like a hermit. Like I think I have my people that I can hang out with, and it's like a, a growth conversation, a growth hangout, talking about goals and stuff. But something slips in there, throws a little wedge in it. It's like oof, it's not the easiest boat to turn around, if that makes sense. I'm I'm nowhere near owning a yacht, but I feel like I'm operating a yacht right now, trying to get to my goals. And I guess that's a good analogy actually, because a yacht is so big and goes so slow, and we're playing the long game. So the yacht sees the goal, but it's way down there, and just because like maybe there are speedboats, little smaller speedboats that can get there faster, but they're smaller. They're not carrying as much meaning. Getting a little wild on this analogy here, but all I'm saying is it's such an accomplishment to stay consistent. So that's why I'm like I've dealt with that and throughout my adult life, but that's why I believe that like a lot of you have dealt with like consistency or being in like a really strong creative flow for a while, whether it's 3 weeks or 2 months or even like a year. There's those flows of like, okay, everything's moving smoothly. It's really easy to like navigate, like going to these events, networking is really easy, like creating is really easy. Posting on social media, if you need to do that, like comes easy. And then there's times it's like everything is going wrong, or like the last thing I want to do is this thing that I have to do. But maybe like a week ago or 2 months ago, it seemed like the easiest thing. It was so like in flow. So consistency. And if you're in that state right now, and like if you've ever been in like a consistent creative flow or just like flow of life, like that's an accomplishment to look back on and like be proud of, not to look at it and be like, I'm not in that flow state right now, but be able to look back on it as an accomplishment. And you've done it before. If you're outside of a flow, I feel like I'm kind of getting a little hippie on you, but if you're outside of the flow state now, like you've done it before. That's why I keep telling myself like I was just in this like really productive, consistent mode, so I can do it again. It's going to take some focus, going to take some like um hand holding maybe with the mindset, but eventually I believe I'll get back to there. And getting out and doing things and like getting myself to do this podcast you're listening to is helping take the baby steps to get back into that flow. Another analogy that just popped into my mind. The flow, the consistent productive flow state is like in Finding Nemo, where the tortoises are like in that like jet, what is it called? Rip current, I think. And you're like maybe you flow out of it like what's it, Crash? Is that his name? Squish or Crash? And oh, no, yeah, I'm not gonna worry about the names because I'll ruin the analogy. But they get out of the rip current, and they got to like just got to swim back into it, and then you're back into it, and you're grinding, and eventually you have to pop out of it, but you can always get back into the rip current of productivity, consistency, and creativity. We're just working on it. We're episode 6 here. Let me know if you like these analogies. Shout out Finding Nemo. Great film. Dare I say second best Pixar? Behind, of course, Ratatouille. Top spot. So, how, all of that relates to the creative journey. And even if, you know, what one of the things going back to what I want to accomplish and this week's question of the week of what I want people to ask me more is like, I want everyone to believe they're creative in some way, but I understand that not everyone is gonna proclaim their creative artist in themselves. So if this stuff relates to you as a creative, perfect. I love that. But if you're like, I'm not a creative, I'm not an artist, like, but this stuff does relate. Like you have moments of productivity, even creativity, if you don't want to admit it, but productivity and consistency um, that those things do pay dividends in life in some ways, in some facets of life. So I hope that you all get into a productive, consistent mode, or if you're in it, stay on it, stay focused on the goal, stay disciplined, not like me. Art I saw last week. This is a new segment. I have some ideas for how this segment can grow in the future, but I want to start integrating it now. Um, a post I do on my personal social media at Hud Oberly Finn is art I saw last week, where it's just a carousel of paintings or music or performances, and it doesn't have to be in these like established institutions like these massive cool New York spots, but it can be like a painting I see on the street. This upcoming Monday, it's going to involve a painting I see in the stairway in my studio building. Like I can't even guess. Probably like less than 20 people see that every day, which maybe that sounds like a lot, but not many people see that. It's in a staircase in a building, one of many staircases. But if I see art, I just want to like, I don't know, also show that like art can be anywhere, and artist is in everyone, creativity is everyone. So art I saw last week is a little segment I want to add to the Creative Brief podcast. Last week I saw Between Two Knees. Wow, it was great. If you don't know about Between Two Knees, it is a indigenous written play by the 1491s. Very popular group on YouTube. They really probably peaked in their YouTube prime, 2010s, early 2010s. But now they're doing way cooler stuff. They're on doing Reservation Dogs. Sterling Harjo, co-creator of Reservation Dogs. Ryan Redcorn doing a lot of great things. Dallas Goldtooth, Migsy, gonna mispronounce your last name, so I'm not even gonna try. All of them are doing great things in the film world and their respective worlds. So, Bobby Wilson. Um, they wrote Between Two Knees, which has made its rounds up in Oregon. It had a stint in Seattle. Now it's in New York this February. Started February 4th, going till February 24th. So I saw that play with my cousin Philip Bread. Um, Loved it. Cried from laughing. Didn't cry from sadness, but there were some like heavy moments. But that's the thing with the play is I think I saw an interview where they're like, it's okay to laugh, and there's a lot of history to be learned if you are not familiar with like the relationship between the U.S. government and indigenous communities in America. But so many things to laugh at, so many things to learn, and I really liked in one of the beginning parts. And I'm sure they do this for everywhere that the play goes, but there's some local history of indigenous um, confrontations. That's not the word I'm looking for, but the history of relationships with local communities. So like this was a lot of like New York battles and community like Indian wars, I guess, that the U.S. government had with local communities here in New York. So that was cool to kind of learn and hear some tribes that like I didn't grow up hearing in Oklahoma, but it was cool. So if you're around New York, check it out. Between Two Knees, it's open till February 24th. Also, just keep an eye out for it for wherever it goes next, because I'm sure it will be going some other places. So that's the episode. Shout out to you and you, the second camera. Please subscribe on YouTube. Here's to you, H2Y. Follow us on Instagram. Here's to you _H2Y. Look for us on LinkedIn and Facebook. Here's to you, H2Y. I'm Hud Oberly, aka Huddleberry Finn. That's the Creative Brief podcast by Here's to You for the creative in you. Peace.